How much?
How much you gotta spend?
Frank, this is more than a month's salary.
Out here, it is all about our hustle.
You really have to take us to the station.
Welcome back to The Oldest Profession. In this special episode, I pass the mic to our beloved regular guest, Ceyenne Doroshow, as she interviews longtime friend and fellow activist JyAsia Kylee. So look forward to that. This episode is about commemorating December 17th, which is the International Day to End Violence Against Sex Workers. This is the History Podcast, so you should know that this day was originally developed by Dr. Annie Sprinkle and SWAP founder Robin Few, and was celebrated by SWAP USA, which began commemorating the day as a memorial and a vigil for the victims of the Green River Killer in Seattle, in Seattle, Washington, who murdered at least 71 women between 1982 and 1998, and the reason he got away with killing so many people over such a long period of time is because most of them were sex workers. Now, before I let Ceyenne take over the show, in order to commemorate this day, if you're looking for a vigil or a gathering of sex workers and our allies, I suggest that you go to SWAP USA, or you follow Lysistrata or Survivors Against FOSTA, or you can follow the link included in this show, which is December17.org, which has an international compilation of events, possibly one near you. You should know every 6.3 minutes, a woman is arrested for prostitution in the United States. 23% of LGBT murder victims were killed while engaging in sex work, according to a 2012 Anti-Violence Project survey. In India, 70% of surveyed sex workers reported being beaten by police. In Russia and Eastern Europe, 42% of sex workers reported physical violence from the police, and 36% reported sexual assault. And a study of New York street-based sex workers reported experiencing violence at the hands of the police at a rate of 27%. So the story that you are about to hear from both Ceyenne and JyAsia is not a unique experience.
Hello, everybody. Today we're going to talk about a wonderful girlfriend of mine, someone I've come to love and adore, a fabulous young woman. Her name is JyAsia.
JyAsia Kylee.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, and yourself?
Would you like to tell people about who you are?
Well, I'm a transgender woman, born and raised Eastern Long Island. Okay, I'm born and raised Eastern Long Island. I'm 36 years old. I'm a freelance makeup artist. Worked about 5-6 years for MAC Cosmetics, and now I just do it for myself. Some activism. Some of the girls know my name. Maybe a lot of the girls know my name. I've been in a few different states and been recognized, and just overall just a good glamour girl, and you shouldn't cross me. So about 2 years ago, I was getting ready to go to this event in Dallas, and it was probably the most expensive event that I was ever going to attend. I'm like, the gown was maybe $600-700, not a ball, but the rich people ball, cotillions, and expensive, the elite of the LGBT community. And you know how the Dallas people, they do it. Yeah, it's big, it's expensive. There's a bunch of celebrities there. So I'm all excited, me waiting to the last minute to do my hair, get my nails done. So I had spent all night taking my hair out. I didn't go to sleep, and I had to do a lot of running around. So I wake up in the next morning, and I just kind of started my morning, and before I ran out to get all my errands done, I figured I'll run out to the beauty supply store, get a few things before I get dressed. I'm just going to run outside for 5 minutes, which means I'm in my headscarf, no makeup.
Basic.
The basic. I'm running to the corner, right back. That doesn't require a lash or a brow.
Hello.
It just really doesn't. So I thought. So I go around the corner to the bodega, and I come across a Hispanic man and a black man. And the way that we were walking, I had no other choice but to go in between them because they were just being
extra
bullies, or just however aggressive. However, for me as a trans woman, or just as a woman, period, I I've learned how to walk down the street and mind my own business. I don't need to cruise you. I don't need to look you up and down. I have a little black book. She's full of all of that, if that's what I'm looking for. So I don't have to go out and search for it. My goal that day was to get my nails done, find a shoe for my gown, and get on the plane to Texas. So I come across these two young men, and as I'm walking through them, the Hispanic man says to the black guy that that's one of those faggot tranny ass niggas. So I responded with, well, that's not a secret. Because when you're trans and you're proud.
You're proud.
Right. There's no, okay, you're saying this to the wrong person. I'm not trying to be undetected. I'm just living, walking. So when I said that, it offended him. For some reason, it just offended him greatly. So I'm like, okay, cool. He made it across the street. I made it across the street. He's still calling me all types of faggots and tranny niggas and so on and so forth. So I screamed back across the street, simply, why don't you just mind your business?
Live.
Right. Once I told him to mind his business, he was so offended. Before I even got nz out of business out of my mouth, he was already coming across the street at me. Pulled out a knife or a box cutter. Not one of the slim ones, one of the big ones.
The industrial one.
Right. You know, the ones when you go to work with, you know. And I think it was like yellow or orange or something like that. So as he's coming across being all aggressive, I normally, since the case is over, let's just talk real. I normally carry a hammer.
Hello.
I normally carry a hammer in my purse. There's always a gadget.
Something.
You know, there's always something
a girl
in my
always
purse.
has something.
But I was so focused on, you know, getting my things together, I must have grabbed the wrong purse. And when I reached into my purse to get my little gadget, there was nothing there but my phone and my keys. Nothing. So for the past 3.5, almost 4 years, I've been carrying a hammer. Not
religiously.
Not waiting for this moment to happen, but to be prepared because it was happening more now than ever in my journey. And I reached in that bag, Auntie, and there was there was nothing. I was like, wait a minute. So in this moment, he was just not even a foot or two from my face. So he's waving it, trying to cut me. I had to bluff him. I put my hand into my purse, because I was reaching for something that wasn't there. So it psyched his mind out to think that I was pulling something out, but I didn't have anything to pull out. So, but in that moment, my mind had to tell the rest of my body to embrace yourself because you're about to
get hurt.
You're about to get hurt, and you're about to not only fight, but you're going to have to fight for your life, and you're going to experience the worst pain that you have ever, because I've never been cut before. Well, not, surgery, but, that's something different. I've never felt this level of pain before. So that, for the first time ever in my life, I'm feeling fear that I've never felt before. Right now, here's this moment, I'm going to have to fight this man for my life, and I'm going to feel something that I've never even felt before, and it's going to be painful. So as he's running up so aggressively, his friend kept trying to push him back. But he was so aggressive, he kept kind of getting loose from the friend and in my face. And the only thing that stopped him is that he wasn't able to see what was in my bag. So when I realized that, I said, well, let me try to psych him out. And I kept my hand in my bag as if I was going to pull something out. There was nothing to pull out but my phone. So thank God, just as this is going on, an unmarked car just so happened to drive by and make that like whoop sound, and it freaked him off. So as he went to go walk away, I flagged the cop down, like, this man just tried to cut me. The cop wasn't interested. He was just like, oh man. So he stopped, and he stopped the guy, took the knife away from him and told him to go ahead. So I said, wait, I know I'm 36 now, so this was 2 years ago. I know enough to say, that's not right. You pull off, he's going to come back around. This guy doesn't need a knife to kill me. He's that aggressive. I'm thinking in my head, the estrogen has taken over my body. There's no testosterone left.
How am I going to fight?
How am I going to fight this man? I can't defend myself like I used to 10, 15 years ago. So when the cop realized I was making a bigger deal out of this, he gets out the car again, and when he took the knife or the blade away from him, he was still so aggressive. He still kept trying to fight me in front of the police. He was so aggressive that they had no other choice but to put him in handcuffs just to figure out what was going on. So I said, yeah, I want him arrested. The police officer just so happened to tell me, you need to call call 911. I said, wait, are you not a police officer? He said, I am, but I have my family in the car. Cool. I call 911. They were more concerned about the police officer being in danger. I've heard the 911 tape like 3 or 4 times, and I didn't realize until the moments later
the questioning that they were
only concerned about. She just kept asking, "Is my officer in danger? Is my officer
I'm in danger, bitch.
I'm in danger." They didn't care. So where I lived is right up the street from the police station. So
they
as
came
you can
quickly.
see from the video, it was a whole bunch of police. So as they were, had the man in handcuffs, the entire neighborhood. You got to say one thing about these Spanish folk: they stick together.
Come together
because the entire community. You've seen it in the video.
Yeah.
They were all against me. They were all fighting against me. I'm standing here by myself. I don't know a soul. I've never seen this man before. He's never seen me before. Or if he has, I've never.
But they're rallying around him.
Right. And so they were arguing that I needed to be arrested too. This was all for no reason. So you see in the video, I went live. Right after I gotten off the phone from the 911, I went live.
Which was a powerful thing to do.
It was a smart thing
in the
to do.
hand of danger.
Yeah.
That was powerful.
Right. So I went live to let people know because I'm from Eastern Long Island. My family doesn't know what I'm doing out here. They're way out there. I'm way over here. Someone needs to know, God forbid, if I get killed or seriously hurt, this is what's happening. So I went live, and as I'm live, I had to convince, however long the video is, I had to convince the police to arrest him.
Job.
So I had to convince the police that I needed him to be arrested. You can hear in the video them saying to me, just let it go. Quote.
You can hear it out loud.
Verbatim. Just let it go. Why? I had to go see a therapist and a psychiatrist, and they diagnosed me with PTSD. Now, I've been sane my whole life. People may have thought I was crazy, but no, I'm not. So now this falls on the lines of mental illness. I've never had those issues.
You didn't ask for.
I didn't ask for this, which falls into lines of depression. Now I'm being treated for these things that I don't even understand yet. What is PTSD? It's not something that I always heard these things when people went to the war. I've never gone to war before. Oh, yeah, I did. Right then in this moment, a few days ago. So let me bring you up. 2 years later, he copped the plea to a disorderly conduct. There's no jail time, no probation, no fines, no nothing.
No anger management.
No nothing.
No nothing.
Nothing. But we did get you a 2-year stay away order of protection. So I said, okay, so when this motherfucker sees, because we live in the same neighborhood, sees me again.
He gonna wait his 2 years.
No, it's not gonna wait. So when he sees me, what you just told this man is that it is okay to carry on like this towards people like me.
If not you, somebody else.
To the next girl.
Yeah.
However, this is okay. There will be no, go ahead and kill me. Go ahead and kill that faggot because there will be no consequences.
No.
So when I'm facing you again, fearing for my life, what am I supposed to do? Reach into my purse and say, wait a minute, I got this piece of paper. You can't do this.
Or you kill him, you can rest assured.
I'm be under
You're
the fucking
going
jail.
under the jail.
Under the jail.
You're going to the most
Under the jail.
hateful heterosexual jail there has ever been.
With the men.
With the men.
With the
Oh,
men.
they're going to turn it. They're
With the
going to turn
men.
it. But here they didn't think you deserve the right to fight for your life.
Nothing.
As if it's okay, we're going to throw this away because he's violent and deserves to be on the street.
Right.
Do you think cases like this are more prevalent now that we're not being supported by the police? With everything that's going on in light of Cessna and Forster, girls are literally back to street work. Do you think if they're attacked, they'll be represented by the judicial system?
Absolutely not. And I really, really, really thought in my heart that we at least had the system.
Yeah, no.
And a root of awakening for me last week, it's okay to murder girls like us. Period. Point
Because
blank.
that's the tone it's
Period.
setting.
Point blank. And what I was saying to the DAs, the DA, I said, listen, this is not just about me. This is about the 15, 16, 17 girls that have been murdered. This is about all the girls that have been murdered in this year alone.
In this year alone.
We're not talking about the girls the year before that, and the year before that, and the year before that.
Increased to 23 murdered. And we have a couple of suicides, but murders. 23. And we're talking 4 or 5 a month. In the past couple of months, we're talking numbers we've never seen before. But we're looking for investigation. Mm-hmm. We're looking for police to fight, to be there, to ask questions. And they're not asking questions.
They don't care.
Okay. We're talking in New York, we're talking a slim margin of numbers, but still numbers.
Right.
Any girl that's killed is a number. But we're talking like 9 girls in Florida, all over Florida, which kind of to me looks like a serial killer. In Cleveland, Ohio, there's a large number of trans women. But we have this border control issue with this psycho cop that was literally four out of the girls were trans that you've murdered. And who knows if these are the numbers that they have? Who knows what he's done? What's going to happen in this situation when we're already being targeted? What do you think that speaks to the tone of having the judicial system actually step up and fight for us? What do we got to do? Put a casket at their houses, on their doorsteps?
I'm not sure what can be done because I've never been in this situation before. I don't think that they care enough that anything can be done. No one's discussing this with, no one really gives a fuck because no one cares about our lives. We're so beneath everyone. We're beneath, Auntie, we're beneath the rapists.
Hello.
We're beneath the people that are on sex offender lists. We're beneath those
and
type
treated
of people.
with more respect.
They're treated with more respect.
They're treated with more respect than we are. It's horrible. It's
a mess.
It's set to a tone that says we are not protected.
Look, we're not human beings.
No, not at all.
There was that dark-skinned lady in Paris is Burning. She had that big old yellow hat on with the yellow down at the pier, and I don't know her name, but she said, if you cut me open, I'm going to bleed blood just like you will bleed blood. I'm a human being. Why is my life treated less than? I pay my fucking taxes.
So, I'm an old school hoe. Mm-hmm. And I've been around for a long time. Mm-hmm. I remember getting criticized from the girls because I was a hoe. Same bitches that's hoes, but because I was an out-and-out hoe with class. Mind you, I wasn't like them bitches. I was fully dressed and dressed appropriately and always looked good. Mm-hmm. What was your relationship to sex work back in the days when we were doing survival sex work?
Okay, so... All right.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, because it's an interesting story.
If y'all could see the eyes, child. If y'all could see the eyes.
For me, I started survival work when I was 12.
Oh, Jesus.
And I wasn't even surviving. It's just the world that I lived in Eastern Long Island. They were just nasty people.
Yeah.
Nasty adult people. And my mom was on drugs and what they call a trap house now in the 90s was called a crack house.
Oh,
I was raised in that up until I was like 14 before I just left. So throughout my teenage years, I was a piece of property of the state of New York, which means if I needed a winter coat, it's because I went outside and I got the coat. And at that time, I was a young black man with a grown man's penis.
Yes, Jesus.
And it attracted all these men with money. So I went years living this way, thinking it was okay, cool. So when I started transitioning, before I started transitioning, when I came into the ballroom scene, I had the mother of our house. When I would go to her house, she had this huge apartment with big old screen TVs in each room. And she had money always. Her hair was always laid. She had wardrobes and shoes. She always had all this money. Was that in the day
when the TVs weighed 500 pounds?
100 pounds, the big ones.
The
big body ones, yeah. Mm-hmm. And I thought in my mind, oh my God, I want to be able to live like this woman. And here I am thinking she's surviving after this because she's a hooker. And what I didn't know until later on was that she had all of this because the city paid all her rent. So when the city's paying all your rent,
You can excess with your accessibles.
Exactly, but I
Yeah.
didn't know that. So all my goal was that as a trans woman, this is the only thing that we're capable of doing. So I called her one day, and this was long before I transitioned, and I said, my money's funny. She said, meet me at Edelweiss. You remember Edelweiss?
Yes.
Over there was at 11th
11th
Avenue
Avenue.
between 42nd and 43rd
Yes,
Street.
Yes.
I may not look as old as I am, but I've been around for a long
That's
time.
old Miss Suling at the door.
Right, at the door.
Yes.
You paid your little coin, you got in, and you made all that money right back quick. So I remember at that particular time moving back home with my mother, not knowing that she would wait for me to come back home way out in Long Island from the nightclub. So I told her that I was going there to do this, and my mother was not that judgmental type of woman. And she said, I thought you said you were going for a weekend or two. I didn't know you was making a career out of this. So I did sex work for about 2 months. When she said that to me, it was like, oh yeah, I done strayed away from the plan. So I went that last weekend, made my little money. And the money I made, I went and bought some new clothes, interviewed, and have been working ever since. So I went from working like at Taco Bell to cleaning toilets for the New York Times. And it was there is when, as I was cleaning those toilets for that year and taking out the garbage and so on and so forth, I started to network within there. And long story bearable, I got in a position in the data entry department, still cleaning toilets. So I would come there like 5 a.m, clean till about like 8, go home, get up in because I'm first transitioning, just starting, and then work a full shift, clock out there, clock right back in that same clock and change my clothes and clean throughout the night, 17, 18 hours a day.
A plan.
It's honest.
It's honest. Yes,
It was honest.
It's a plan.
And then they in the customer service department, they had opened up, and from my understanding, they had just started a diversity team. How much more diverse can you be by hiring a black transsexual? So we're going back to like 2005 or so. This is when the world wasn't so
This is when
trans-tolerant.
diversity became
Just
the
right.
new
And
word.
right, the diversity in all of these type
Yeah.
of corporate businesses, they were all starting diversity teams. So long story bearable, I was able to get in there and get situated in a full-time position that I just had to work a regular 8-hour shift like everyone else, and it paid a whole bunch of money where I was able to pay my car note, pay my rent, and everything else. And in a position, I met a man. For that first year, he was my sugar daddy, which turns into more than a sugar daddy, became my man, and 12 years later, he showed me a different way. Now, I kept my penis for so long because it was the same thing as pose. When I wanted to when I brought up the sex change, he was like, I will be out of here like that. So me being young and foolish, like, well, I wouldn't want you to leave because of something like that.
If you are a trans woman and you've done sex work and your niche market were gentlemen or men or hood boys that liked a trans woman for her certain unique look or fit or feel, when you transition, that niche market out the window, that clientele out the window. Once you get that vagina, you have to take in mind that your way of supporting yourself and marketing yourself has changed. Monumentally, your niche market has just stepped out the door. It's sort of like Pose. When
I was just thinking of that, yeah.
when
she got her sex
Dominique got her
change, yeah.
sex change,
She was no longer...
and her sugar daddy wanted, he begged her not to do it. He wanted her not to do it. But the reality was, once she did it, he no longer had that thing
and
he
it was
loved.
over just that fast.
And it was over.
It was
And
over
she
just that
had
fast.
not a home, not a hotel, no money for her children. Her whole world, as she's seen it, being on top of the game because she had a special part of her.
Right.
Taking away that special part, she now has nothing. Forced into homelessness. Too proud to say, I'm homeless. How many girls have stepped right up to this mic right now and doing that and realized that, oh, Christ, my clients don't want to see me. So they're now forced into a even extremely more dangerous world of sex work because now your clients don't know your T. And if they find out your T, and when I say T, it means your situation, that you've had SRS or sexual
That
realignment
that you
service.
were once physically a boy.
Yeah. Yes, Jesus.
That's
You
what
better
she's
talk
trying to
about
say.
it. Yes,
That's
I
what
was
she's
trying to be
say.
nice.
That's what she's trying to
I
say.
was
That
trying
you
to
were
be
once physically
a boy.
A boy.
And with a certain kind of fashion flair.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have changed that, and you realize, oh God, I got to go to welfare. For the first time in my life, I have to turn to a system I've been running from because of the discrimination. I got to drop it on them now that I'm reborn. I'm no longer Fred. I'm Francis. And I need help.
You're out of control.
Because Fred made some money as Francis. It is a turnaround in a time when we can't afford this fuckery.
Right. So many years I wasn't on hormones. Because with that sugar daddy, this was the survival part.
That was the control.
Right. It needed to work for him. That's what he was into.
Yeah, no, I
and
never
at
had
so
to use
many
it.
years, I remember the reason why I had to start taking hormones because I had gotten these big old breast implants, Auntie. I'll show you the pictures. And I did them in Manhattan. I wasn't going anywhere. They cost me about $10,000. They were 10 grand. And cash I gave that man in Manhattan to do those titties. And they almost killed me. I had to remove these titties to save my life. Right, to save my life. So then that's when I had taken them out when the doctor suggested, I think you should start the hormones. Once I did, my body started to develop, my look changed, and my penis didn't work. So then I had the decision to make. Survival work or my womanhood?
Womanhood.
For me, I chose my womanhood because I went so many years looking like him and demanding the respect of her when I couldn't even give my body and my life the proper respect that I was even demanding from other people.
My boyfriend literally threw me out. I was such a cute little girl back then. And more as I started to work, he was some big VP for Macy's. And of course, I used his Macy card on the regular. And he did not like the transitioning. And I had been living with him for 2 years. And I happened to come home one day. He never threw me out in transition, but I came home early from work one day and he had like the double locks on the door and he was in there fucking some little boy in his ass. And not only did it devastate me emotionally, but when I did calm down, he told me, it's the transition. I'm not ready for that. And you have to go. Your stuff is packed. And literally my stuff was packed. And for the first time in 2 years, getting myself equated with a job, getting myself together, and transitioning slowly. It wasn't like I jumped up overnight and became, I was literally getting the best shit in the world because he was my access to clothing. And even though it was classy, it was still too much for him. And literally, he chose to put me on the street. And I was too young. It was my first, like, real job. And I went to Covenant House that told me I had transitioned too much. And they could not house me because I was transgender. Back then, because they were Catholic dioceses, I, again, was now not just put out from my boyfriend, but put out from Covenant House, and now I'm in the Port Authority, homeless at 19. And what that looked like for a 19-year-old that was raised in Park Slope and Bushwick, that had never seen the bottoms, had never been around the girls. And for the first time in my life, I'm around violent transgender women with bad attitudes, dangerous tricks, and trying to discover what this new world is for me. And it was dangerous from day one.
It was.
I remember I was 16 years old. Like, my mom threw a birthday party for me. She invited the guy from Macy's. She had no idea how old he was. He came into my house and he proposed with a ring at my mother's dining room table. And what that looked like for my mom and us that night, she was like, okay, you go and you have fun. Y'all go out, and I'm going to talk to you later. And I went upstairs, and I put on my Norman Kamali cape and my honcho. And we went out because my birthday's December 27th. And I went out in my fabulous powder blue and pink outfit. And I came home in the morning, and my bags were packed. And it was more or less of a time when it wasn't okay to be trans at all. And certainly not at 16 years old. And then the development of my development looked totally fucking different throughout the years because I had transitioned so early. I knew from birth I was a girl. I know it. There was no hiding it. I hadn't done the necessary steps. I had started doing it. And there was a lonely side to it because, yes, like you said, family and all the little nasty men, I had been seeing this throughout my existence. I had been seeing men that were close to me, men that were in my life that wanted sexual favors, that were willing to buy me anything, but they were people I trusted in my inner circle. To fast forward to the 90s where I'm out. I am fully there to where I didn't have a sense of community. I didn't have a sense of safety surrounded around transition. I always had this inadequate feeling of, I don't want to be that, but I need to be this in order for me to shield and protect myself. But throughout all of it, there was always this area of unsafety when it came to police and policy and protection and what that would look like, because I heard throughout my whole childhood, if I was too feminine, I was going to die. So that was instilled in me from childhood. You can go far, but don't go too far.
Right.
Thank you so much for listening. As we gear up for the holiday season, please consider donating to a sex worker rights organization. I consider Swap Behind Bars, Swap USA, Lysistrata, Third Wave, Glitz, SOAR. There are a lot to choose from. We've highlighted a lot in this podcast. And of course, if you're a patron of a sex worker, be extra generous this season. Thank you for listening to The Oldest Profession. Thank you to our patrons. Y'all are the best. We couldn't do it without you. Thank you, as always, to our brilliant producer, Justine McClellan. Consider checking out our Instagram, at Old Pro Podcast, to see tons of images of the old pros we talk about on the show. Go to Twitter, also at Old Pro Podcast, for the latest in sex worker events, activism opportunities, and of course, snarky commentary on the news of the day impacting sex workers. Please rate and review us on iTunes. It's a small thing, but it helps a lot. It helps people find us because algorithms. If you're considering coming out as a sex worker to somebody in your life, try suggesting that they listen to the podcast. How they react to this is a pretty good litmus test as to whether or not they'll try to shame you for being an old pro. All of the growth of this podcast so far has been the result of word of mouth, so please keep telling your friends. If everyone tells just one person, we can double our numbers and reach even more old pros and allies. The more listeners we have, the more we can chip away at this stubborn stigma. And again, thank you so much for listening. This has been The Oldest Profession.